Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. This is the history and compilation of the Qur'an with me, your host Shaykh Faheem of the Islamic Lifestyle Solutions in Durban, South Africa, a program that explores the authenticity and inimitability of the glorious Book of Allah. As we mentioned before, the information pertaining to this particular subject may be found in my book of the same title, The History and Compilation of the Qur'an. Now, the subject for today, as we mentioned, is the methodological approach towards understanding the Book of Allah. This is absolutely important. Failure to do so has resulted in the many problems and dispute amongst Muslims in relation to methodology. So firstly, what everyone needs to understand, that the foremost manner in which the Qur'an and its verses may be interpreted is known as tafsirul Qur'an bil Qur'an. To understand one verse of the Qur'an via another verse of the Qur'an. And you'll see inshallah in episode 4 that this is absolutely important, and it proves also the consistency of the Qur'an. So it says something in one verse and you find the consistency of what its meaning is meant there, and another verse that explains it so beautifully. Subhanallah. So the methodological approach, tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran, is a foremost and the best way in which we can understand the Book of Allah. However, the Quran was revealed as hudal linnas, as a guideline for humankind. So we've told you this already, that the Quran speaks to different groups of people, but humankind encompasses all. So this would mean that the Quran would have to be revealed and have to touch at the intellectual faculty of the scholar of the highest order, and also to the farmer in his farmlands. It would have to appeal to the intellectual capacity of a person at the government level, and also a person who is shining the shoe on the street, to the king and to the pauper. And it is for this reason, and not mainly, but one of the reasons why, we find that there are two basic levels in which the Quran may be approached, if we categorize them into two simply for our understanding. One we would call the basic level. The basic level is based on the religious consciousness of a person. And remember, every single person born into this world has a religious consciousness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, Alastu bi rabbikum. In a time before the bodily world, Allah Ta'ala said, am I not your Lord? Qalu bala. To which everyone said yes. Well, if everyone said yes, then why do we have people that don't believe in the concept of God today? You see, this is a concept that comes much later. You don't find children disbelieving in God. Every child believes in a higher power. It's only when the mind loses its path or has the ability to choose its own path is where the wrong choice is made. Now, at the basic level, for your own understanding, if you were to pick up the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you open from the right hand side, you will find Surah Al-Fatiha, you will find Surah Al-Baqarah, you will find thereafter Surah Al-Imran, and we'll prove why it's like this as well as the program goes, inshallah, with authentic information. So at the basic level, a person who picks up the Book of Allah at this way, his understanding of Islam, if he had to put it in subject and categorization, would be different to another level. And this level, which we can categorize as articulated by the late Allama Dr. Fazl Rahman Ansari as well, is what we call the probe level. A level that induces intellectual probing into the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see, opening the Book of Allah ta'ala at the basic level and to follow the sequential order of revelation creates one image and one viewpoint, which is amazing. And yet we have the study of the Quran according to the chronological order of revelation, where we start at Surah Alaq and then we go to the other surahs revealed in order. There's a different picture and different viewpoint painted there. Subhanallah. This is the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the Quran is revealed in one order, but the Prophet ﷺ divinely commanded to place it in another order. This is by no coincidence. It is to deliver to the different intellectual capacities of the world a manner of approach and study which would be able to quench the thirst of that intellectual capacity, right? So keeping that in mind, the study of the Qur'an at the basic level is one, and at the probe level. Now, probing is very, very, very important. As a Muslim, you will find that some of the biggest problems is when people take verses of the Qur'an without probing into them, without, making contemplation and reflection. Allah Ta'ala says, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ? Will you not reflect? أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ? Will you not use your aql and the rational faculty? We're supposed to do that. So, when we study the verse of Qur'an, we should ensure that there are a few questions we answer before we try to come to any conclusions. Number one, in the timeline of history, so let's just say you take a verse of the Qur'an, in the timeline of history and the division of the seerah between the Meccan and the Medinan era, when was this particular verse revealed? So developing a timeline is very important, because we know that in the Meccan period there were no harsh and strict and stern laws revealed, because as Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala mentions in Sahih al-Bukhari, that the Prophet ﷺ at that particular time, no harsh and strong laws were revealed. Allah Ta'ala got the hearts inclined. So they're speaking about paradise and speaking about hell, and it's in the Medinan era, when the Islamic empire begins to expand, that we find the laws coming one after the other. Our fast of Ramadan, for instance, right? So like that. So in this particular manner, we're supposed to develop a timeline. When? Once that is acquired, what? So you take a pen and paper, you say when, you get the timeline sorted out, what is being revealed? What is the subject matter? This particular verse can be discussed in this subject A, subject B, subject C, and so forth. Why was it revealed? The sababun nuzul, or the socio-historical background. You cannot understand the implementation of a verse without knowing the why. Why was it revealed? The next one, who was it revealed to? You cannot take a verse that is speaking about the kuffar and ask mu'mineen to make amal upon that verse. You cannot do that. Allah Ta'ala speaks about the kuffar, gives them instruction. We are not in that category, so we follow the other ones. No, we don't discard them, because they're there for a reason, right? So, who is very important. And this is the problem. People take a verse about Allah Ta'ala was speaking about the kuffar, and they're quoting it to Muslims and asking them to wake up. No, this is wrong. At the same junction, in the end, how? How do I apply this verse? Because remember, the Qur'an was revealed 1400 years ago, but the beauty of it is that you can pick it up 1400 years later and the verse is speaking to you in this time, in this era. Once you know the what, how, who, when and why, then you have only got some insight, some, into that verse. Without which you should not be taking a verse of the Qur'an and reciting it without knowing these 5 W's or 4 W's as we call them. Okay. Now, in the probe level, more. Again, we're telling you the deeper level of understanding the Book of Allah. In the probe level, if I may give you a parable through which you may understand. You see, the probe level of Qur'an is that you go into the Qur'an as a quest of knowledge. Now, in this example, we will just tell you this here very quickly. Consider a diver who's searching for pearls. It's not an easy task. It's time-consuming, a lot of effort, and a lot of preparation. In your preparation, the diver has to first find the suitable location where he may or may not find a pearl. And then he dives deep into the ocean, searches until he finds only one. This is the case. It's not that a person just goes and he finds hundreds and thousands of pearls. No, they are scattered. The verses of the Qur'an are pearls that are scattered. So he comes up with his pearl, and then what he has to do, after searching through the floor of the ocean, he says, right, we need to change location. So you start in a surah, you look for a particular pearl, and now that pearl directs you to another pearl which may not even be in that surah. So you make the journey to the next location. When you come to that particular location, you find your pearl and you move on to the pearl of the subject of that verse to the next one until you gather all the pearls together. And even when you do that, not complete. Why? Because what is the use of pearls without the string that binds it to form a necklace? And this is what methodology is all about. We argue that the Qur'an has within it an intelligible system, a system of meaning that allows us to take a subject and journey through the book of Allah to bring together the scattered parts and juz to form a systematic whole. And it's only when we form these pearls with that binding string and we take a step back can we now admire the end result in the form of a necklace. So my most honorable viewers, the subject of the Qur'an at the basic level, at the probe level, they are very, very different. And it is hoped that we can induce this inclination to the book of Allah that takes us on a quest of knowledge, that allows us to start at one verse and then directs us to many others and many others. And then at each verse we understand the socio-historical backgrounds, the why, the who, the when, the what, and the how. Only then can we say with any form of conviction that we have understood a fraction of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this concludes today's subject on methodology. Inshallah, we will touch on it very, very slightly in the next episode. But in the next episode, inshallah, we will be discussing the mechanics of revelation and how revelation works. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if anything good has been achieved, the praise belongs to Him, the faults belong to me. Astaghfirullah rabbi min kulli dhanbi wa atubu ilayh. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق